people change their mind. ActionSA has changed his mind.
Sure.
We had a view that will never work with the ANC. We've changed our mind. People like myself, unfortunately, I was born a cheeky black. I don't know if you know what a cheeky black is. Maybe you guys in the media, you're protecting the DA because DA corruption is not corruption. Because now I know when I deal with the DA, I know I deal with dishonest people.
Mr. Mashaba, thank you so much for joining us on SMWX. It's a real honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. Actually, first time to be interviewed by you. I remember I once missed an interview with you on SABC.
Yes.
But then, unfortunately, I realized at the last minute, I think your producers were not already obviously honest with me as to the kind of people that were going to be part of the panel. And I said, no, man, I don't want to put myself into that situation.
Sure.
So let me apologize to you if obviously I disrupted, but it's just that I did not want to get myself into a mud with such characters.
I completely understand. And, there's a lot to be said about how, people get invited onto a platform, and sorry that it couldn't happen at the time, but I respect and appreciate you being here. And it's one that our audience has been asking for a long time.
Is it? Okay.
So
what have I done for people to really want to hear from me? Because I'm every day out there. Some people think I'm controversial, but I think people think I'm controversial in the sense that it is in my DNA. I don't stand on fence on issues.
That's for sure. And you've certainly lit up the political landscape, by being very clear about what you stand for and what you don't stand for. Maybe let's start. I mean, you have a storied history in South Africa and its politics even before you became a formal politician. But that moment of being mayor in Joburg, where you were a DA mayor, but you were in coalition with the EFF, was a very interesting time in South African politics, maybe one that we haven't really focused on, because you had this coalition of very divergent parties, but at the same time, you were actually able to get a lot done. The city, the sky didn't fall as many people predicted. How do you look back on your time as mayor, and particularly leading a very diverse coalition of parties on different sides of the political spectrum?
Well, it's interesting. Let me just give you a little bit of background. When I was invited by the DA to be the mayoral candidate, I said, my goodness, what does a mayor do? Because I had no clue whatsoever what the mayor does on a day-to-day basis, and where are their offices. But because I was really concerned at the fast deterioration and decay of our city and country, and I decided instead of jumping ship, go and live somewhere else in the world, I said, no, let me do what I think it's right, use my privileged position. And all of a sudden, I became a mayor August 2016.
Yeah.
And I made a commitment on the day of my election that I'm going to do everything possible to work together with all the parties that voted me into power, including the EFF. Because I was not the one who negotiated the coalition agreement, because I wasn't part of DA's senior structures. So they're the ones who put this whole thing together.
And I remember at the time the EFF said we'll never have Mashaba as a mayor and all of that.
And I was really so nervous about this hostile environment I was putting myself in. I remember actually a few days before, after EFF had the press conference in Alexander about me, and I actually felt betrayed at the time by the DA not informing me about this. It was only through the media. Tsidi Madia and Stephen Crotis phoning me to say, Herman, did you watch the press conference of the EFF? I said, yes, and are you aware what the problem is? I said, I have absolutely no idea, but I was watching. He says, no, the problem is you. The EFF has promised the DA that they will support them, but they must take this capitalist called Mashaba out.
Yeah.
So I then said to TD, and when Stephen called, and I said, please ask the DA, where do I sign? Please, for me, being the mayor is the last job in the world I want. I worked to bring the ANC under 50% so that we can have a new government in power. So please ask the DA not to lose this opportunity. But a few days later, I said to my wife, I think, what kind of people are this? The DA asking me to play such a huge role, expect me to work with the EFF, and they don't inform me. I've got to learn this from the media. I said to my wife, you know what? Let me tell the DA to look for someone else. Unfortunately, my wife forced me. She says, "You're not going to," because she's my wife, and I take her counsel and advice. She says, "No, people voted and they voted for you. You are going to do this job. We gave you the support as the family. You're not going to let South Africans down." So accept it, and I was really surprised. On 22nd of August 2016, that's the day I was elected as the mayor at the Joburg City Hall. I cannot believe, even up to today, the role that Floyd Shivambu played to ensure that I got elected. I couldn't believe it. Remember when council started on that day, for me, first time to be in that environment. EFF, as council started, wanted then Mpofu to leave council because a few days earlier, I believe, you went around offering EFF councillors R500,000 each. To vote with the ANC.
Wow.
Because voting for the mayor, it's a secret ballot. So obviously this got to the attention of the EFF. So EFF had to lay criminal charges against then Mpofu and wanted him out of council. Remember, we started quite late with this commotion.
Wow.
But when eventually voting started, the role that Floyd Shivambu played to ensure that EFF councillors must vote correctly. That's really, for me, I was watching this movie that, I didn't really know and understand in the past. And eventually, when the results came, I was overwhelmingly supported. And so after the election, I had to deliver the speech, but you remember one of the ANC councillors died of a heart attack during the election time. And I then requested council in South Africa to say, look, if you don't mind, give me an opportunity to deliver my maiden speech at the first sitting of council today. Just really to thank all the parties and people of Johannesburg who've entrusted me with this responsibility, and that I will do everything possible to ensure that this coalition government work. And by so doing, that would mean that I have to engage everyone. And that's exactly what I did. Unfortunately, I did not realize that this didn't sit well with the DA over a period of time, because over the 3 years as a mayor, DA became the most difficult partner in this coalition that you are referring to. They were just really difficult until obviously leading to my resignation 2 years before completing my term.
What did you learn about bringing a coalition like that together? And especially from, DA, EFF, that's hard at the best of times because they're seen as these opposite parties. But at the time, the city was doing fine. So what kind of work did you do, and how did you and the EFF find each other at that time? Because there were a lot of doomsayers at the time saying this can never work, it's impossible. But as you say, it came apart because the DA ultimately removed you, and the DA got angry at you, not because the DA and EFF were not
the DA got angry with me, came out with a campaign to call me an EFF mayor because of the pro-poor stance I'd taken, and working with all the parties, including the EFF. I can tell you the EFF, Funzi and I, every time I engaged other parties, including the EFF was the most cooperative of all the parties. Of all the coalition partners,
Sure.
the EFF, they were the most progressive and the most supportive. And I've said this before, and I don't have to really lie about it. But unfortunately, this didn't sit well with the DA. And why this happened, this relationship with the EFF developed because I was consulting. I would not take any report to council without engaging all the parties. And all the time, I mean, when there was a report to council, I would first report to the DA caucus because I was the leader of
course,
caucus. And then afterwards, I'll consult the other parties, including the EFF. And DA didn't want me to consult EFF. But then how do I take a report to council without consulting people whose votes actually counts? And I said, no.
Yeah.
That's where it actually ended up with literally breakdown of relationship between the DA and I while I was still the mayor. And through the IRR facilitated with Helen Zille to have a motion of no confidence against me, which was really very sad. And she said, and ran a campaign. Remember, during the 2021 local government elections, spent a fortune on radio and everywhere saying to residents with fear-mongering, says, don't vote for Mashaba. He's an EFF mayor. You listen to her when she calls me an EFF mayor. And my sin is because I will not accept refusing to provide services to poor communities.
There's this idea, and I wonder what you make of it, that with all the people the DA lost, particularly in that moment, they lost Patricia de Lille, they lost you, they lost Musi Maimane. Before that, they'd lost Lindiwe Mazibuko, Makashule Ghana, Phumzile van Dam. I'm probably leaving some people out. That group, if the DA had kept them in the DA and that group had actually come to lead the DA, it might actually be in a position to govern right now. It would have actually beaten the ANC if the DA pursued that path. But they went back on that path. Everyone got ejected, and then they went down a much narrower path where they chose to hang on to their 20% or 22% and just fight that corner. What do you make of that?
Well, one thing that unfortunately, my own personal experience, I think the only time you'll find black people within the DA are those that would not really challenge anything that DA leadership the agenda, basically, which is actually quite sad. Whereas people like myself, unfortunately, I was born a cheeky black. I don't know if you know what a cheeky black is. I was born in the dark days of my country's history, and I learned to navigate and not allow anyone to take my dignity away from me. And I grew up being known to be a cheeky black because I will not comply with evil and being unfairly mistreated. And that's my life. So as far as for the DA, obviously, because they've got a heavy National Party heritage, which is entrenched in that party at the moment. So unfortunately, a cheeky black will never survive in the DA. That's a fact of life.
Wow. Of course, let's come on to ActionSA, because there's no doubt that you have really reshaped the political landscape in South Africa since your first election in 2021, where you just contested in Gauteng, and now, or you did very well in Gauteng, and then you had your first national election. The multi-party charter was one of the key parts of the build-up to this election. How do you reflect on that, and what do you think were the successes and the failures within the charter? It ultimately came apart because the DA is now in coalition with the ANC. But talk us through that from your perspective in Action SA, because you played an important role within that charter.
I think we did a review after the elections, even before the election, closer to the elections. We realized towards the elections that the multi-party charter is going to work against us because we were working with dishonest partners in the multi-party charter. And the facts are there. DA got involved in the multi-party to decampaign campaign us, in particular Action SA. That has really been the lesson that we've learned. But at the end of the day, you know what, Caesar, I've always accepted I'm a human being, I make mistakes, I'm fallible, but I learn, and I learn very quickly, and I move on. I'm not the kind of person that one day you learn that Herman Mashaba committed suicide. No, challenges in life, as I confront them, God has given me this brain to navigate, to find answers. Now I know when I deal with the DA, I know I deal with dishonest people, and that's how I will really treat those matters. And I deal with the ANC, as you are aware. ANC, for all of us as black people born in the 50s, 60s, ANC people, we've always been born in that. ANC, PAC, we've always regarded these guys as our heroes and the people who are going to liberate us one day. But I got really betrayed by them after 1994, but especially the when Thabo Mbeki's second term, that's when I started seeing cracks. And some of us really tried to engage these guys because we know them quite well. And when people were not prepared to listen, corruption started creeping in so quickly. Look at the city of Johannesburg. Just to give you an example, Caesar, when Mandela won the elections in 1994, before the inauguration of him, ANC had a big celebratory party at the Carlton Hotel, right? At the ballroom, and because I had spent a lot of money with the ANC for voter education and so forth. Wow. So I was one of the few lucky business people invited to this. And hardly 10 years into our democratic dispensation, we started seeing the Carlton Center, Johannesburg Sun, that small street. Some of us, we've actually witnessed the city decaying under the ANC because not really focus on government, focus on corruption. I think one of the issues which we question at the time when we took over this government in 1994, the National Party over many years have built good, solid infrastructure, but only targeted at a small white community. So we expected the ANC to maintain this and then grow it. Unfortunately, they destroyed. Where did ANC first invest? In the arms deal. When the National Party never built houses, proper houses for our people. We needed roads in our villages. We needed water. We needed electricity. Where these people, the first biggest investment of the ANC government in this country was on armaments. At the time, South Africa was the darling of the world. We had no threat whatsoever, But they invest in armaments, and we questioned them. And the consequences of that arms deal. We spent 4 times what was budgeted, and here we are today. I don't think they can find 10% of that investment. So these are things that really made one eventually to really enter the political arena. And running Johannesburg wasn't easy, but possible. Because, the first year when I took over, you can imagine I take over an administration dominated by ANC cadres who were put into these positions not because of what they knew, because of who they knew.
Sure.
So to deal with the situation was the first year was really very difficult. And EFF support assisted me enormously because EFF assisted me to identify those who were there to sabotage. And what was interesting, I'm sure EFF, when you interviewed them one day, every time we will find someone who was there to try and sabotage us, and we'll take them through the disciplinary process and fire them. All of a sudden, they become EFF members, and they go to the EFF to complain about me. And every time when I show EFF this, not a single time that EFF ever objected to any of the people that are fired, because I did not fire people for any other reason than malfeasance and corruption. But I can't say the same thing about the ANC. About the DA.
Right.
I can't say the same thing about the DA. When I was the mayor, I'm sure you're aware, I fired 3 DA mayors, MMCs. Fired 3 of them. Every single one of them, before I could fire them, DA had objections. For me to fire them. And I would always say to them, guys, what the hell are you talking about? This is not a political party matter. This is a government matter. Yes, evidence of corruption. Don't you think this reports of corruption is sufficient enough? And what they did, DA, I would obviously fire them without their permission, but DA will then keep them as councillors. Something even up to today that I find as very dangerous double standards that other parties are allowing the DA to get away with it. I think maybe you guys in the media, you're protecting the DA because DA corruption is not corruption. Because how do someone gets fired as an executive for corruption with evidence?
Fam, I just wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know the 4 ways you can help SMWX. Way number 1, you can invite me to speak at your institution or company. Way number 2, you can advertise on this channel. Way number 3, you can become a member of this channel. The link to the membership is down below. And number 4, you can buy merch, that's books or hoodies. Now let's get back to the episode. All our contact details are in the description box below.
And then, but you're still happy to keep them as a councillor because obviously I had no authority to fire them as councillors. And those are the people that ended up with the IRR and Helen Zille being on our WhatsApp group. You know, when you're in caucus, you have a caucus WhatsApp group where you discuss your strategies, your issues in caucus. I didn't realize until when I became aware of the secret meetings that, my goodness, the Institute of Race Relations and Helen Zille, they are on our WhatsApp group.
Oh, they were there.
It's scary. And these are things that I've spoken about, written about. To look at Tshwane, people of Hammanskraal, where I come from, with the last 18 years, people of Hammanskraal don't have clean water. DA government in 2019 giving 194 million rand tender to Edwin Sodi, this company. This company was not on the city's supply that database. Was 40 million rands more expensive than companies that had the expertise. Edwin Sodi's company had no knowledge about the water treatment plant refurbishment. But DA gave it to them. Who raised this matter was after the formation of ActionSA. That's when this matter came to my attention and we challenged it. Even up to today, we're still really battling to really get DA to open up as to how Edwin Sodi got this tender. They just charged 3 officials. And I mean, the kind of punishment given to them at the time, but we objected, was that they would deprive them of 1 month's salary. you know. And we said, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? We need criminal charges laid against those people. The process is still underway. It's still underway. And in 2022, I don't know if you'll remember, when we were already governing with the DA, and we're still governing with them in the city of Tshwane, where they brought in an unsolicited bid of 26 billion rands to give 2 of the substations to a company that had relationship with the DA. So for us, as ActionSA, we actually informed them in the MECO before bringing this report to council. Says, don't bring this this thing. This tender it's illegal. You know, you have already got a preferred bidder. You're not giving the other people an opportunity. But then, because of their arrogance, brought it to council. By then, they'd spoken to the EFF and the ANC to support them. But then, because we made so much noise, unfortunately or fortunately, on the day of election of this report in council, ANC and EFF voted against it with us. And DA went on a massive campaign because they've got the resources and the support of people like yourselves in the media.
Wow.
You protected them. ActionSA was blamed that we are an uncooperative partner.
Not the tender, but you were the partner.
Yeah, so we are blamed for not supporting our partner. So I just want South Africa and all the other parties, if you want to really work with us, with ActionSA, as long as I'm a leader for ActionSA, ActionSA is not going to cover for anyone. And we don't want anyone to cover for us.
And it's interesting, as we enter this new GNU era, there's this idea that because the DA is there won't be any corruption, and the era of corruption is over. And you call us to be very cautious about that kind of narrative. Can I ask you about the GNU itself and what you make of this coalition government that we have? It's really quite a shock if you think back to South African history for the DA and the ANC to be in one coalition, and of course with other parties around them. What do you make of the GNU, and also why did ActionSA decide not to be part of this coalition government and to rather play its role from the opposition side?
Well, the main really reason why ActionSA refused to be part of this, we cannot really get involved with dishonest relationship. Firstly, by calling this Government of National Unity. By the time they invited us, ANC and DA had already had an arrangement, and they wanted to invite us.
Wow.
And that's, for some of us, we're not born yesterday. Some of these things we come to know about them in advance. That this is just really some gimmick to fool us as South Africans, that this is a government of national unity. This is a grand coalition of the ANC and DA, because anywhere in the world, when you have government of national unity, that's when a country is in a crisis and no single party is in charge. You can't get ANC and DA, they sign an agreement giving themselves the veto powers on everything, and then they invite others and they say they call this the government of national unity. Unfortunately, for some of us, we could see we don't want to be played. I mean, we were played by the DA during the multi-party charter, so we're not going to really be fooled. But at the same time, we as ActionSA saw a huge opportunity to really be a constructive opposition. Because when obviously you have the DA and ANC going to cover for each other, then you take in that space. And then on the other hand, you have this progressive caucus of EFF and MMK. And unfortunately, at national level, the EFF, as I said, as much as at the local government level, for me, they were the most supportive. But I'm too scared to work with the EFF at national level, because I believe in free market economy. I believe in an unracial South Africa. I mean, those values are really too close to me. I don't want to live in an environment where we discover race becomes an issue. I think we need to work towards coexistence. And I believe in free market economy. The reason, Faizan, I'm enjoying this economic freedom today is because of using my God-given talents to take advantage of opportunities. I don't want to live in a country, in a world where politicians control every aspect of my life.
Sure.
So I think from the EFF's point of view, talking about the change of constitution, land expropriation without compensation, these are things that I feel, you know what, EFF, you guys, any day, time, I would give you credit for our relationship at local government level, because there are no policies. But at a national level, honestly, I don't want to be associated with people that they don't believe in property rights, they don't believe in free market economy. So I said, now who's going to occupy the space to hold this government accountable? And I've feared, and I've actually expressed this to South Africans, that we're going to have a problem, because if ANC continues with their corruption and DA continues with their racism policies, and these two work together to cover for each other, we're going to have a huge challenge as a country, you know. And what happened even before Parliament was inaugurated, Helen Zille came out to say, no, Pala will not be allowed back in Parliament. Hey, my goodness. Pala such a serious matter. And then after John Steenhuisen is now the minister with VIP protection, he said no, Pala is not comparable to the VBS bank. You know, then you say, my goodness, but these are the same people a few months before the elections.
Pala was the worst
all
thing.
was the worst thing that ever happened to this country. So this gives us, some of us, some real serious concern. Yesterday, morning, I came across one of the senior DA people tweeting about a DA raising this issue of the recent racial slurs in Pretoria and Cape Town.
Right.
And senior member of DA actually has got the audacity to put it on social media to say, these are small things, we should not focus on that because this will threaten government of national unity.
I didn't see that.
And I'm saying, my goodness.
Yeah, so now
I'm saying, so I think probably we need to really look at very closely at what the ANC and DA's arrangement is. Probably the DA has given them assurance that we will protect your corruption and you defend ours. And also, please, issues of racial issues where black kids are exploited, abused in schools, don't talk about it. So these are things that some of us are saying, no, I'm not going to sit back as a South African to allow anyone to practice racism and expect us to sit back and not say anything about it. And we must talk about our history. It is our history, but at the same time, we must use it, must use that history to build the future. But at the same time, I'm not going to protect anyone involved in corruption. So that's a reason why I think for me, Caesar, these issues are of major concern. But I really hope and pray that they succeed.
You know, one thing that I'm a bit worried about, before this coalition government came into being, I said, if they start doing things right, I will be the first person to say, excellent, cut cabinet like you promised. You come out with a coherent plan out of the gates to say, this is what we're going to do as a government. These are our priorities, and not just a speech, but this is how we're going to achieve them in these time frames. The GNU is now a month old, and I'm worried about incoherence because it seems one minister says one thing and then another minister says no, and then the deputy minister says no. The real story is this. So ministers seem to be able to say whatever they want. We haven't got a plan yet from this government. We've got a speech, but we don't have a plan. And it's a month. So when do we actually get, this is what the GNU is going to do? And so I think, there's a danger of us waking up too late, like many people woke up too late during Ramaphosa's first term, that is there a center here that's really pushing the country in the right direction? If it does, we'll all celebrate. But if the first month is anything to go by, this is going to be quite a rough ride.
Well, without any doubt. I think in the first place, the DA has always advocated for a smaller cabinet. And then they emerge with Cyril Ramaphosa with the biggest cabinet on earth.
Yeah.
No government in the world has got such a big cabinet. And actually, one of my colleagues the other day was talking to one of the ministers with two deputy ministers. He says, I don't know what these guys are going to do.
Sure.
Well, no delegation has already been given,
Wow.
but they're already enjoying the benefits.
Yeah.
They've got VIP protection and so forth, but no delegation. So the minister himself doesn't know what these two deputies are going to do. And that's something that the DA and their partners accepted this. And obviously Cyril was trying to please everyone, but please everyone and their coalition partners at the expense of the country, because these people don't come cheap. You know, and at the same time, have people for the sake of having them, you don't know what they're going to really be doing. So it's one of the challenges that I guess they're going to be facing. And if you look at honestly, for anyone who open your eyes and ears carefully, what they're doing right now, they're trying to outshine one another by speeches, no real action. You see them on national television, on radio, saying we want South Africa to turn into a construction site. But where's the plan to take on there's absolutely, how can you ever actually make such an utterance that you want to turn South Africa into a construction site without actually even having the budget at the time, you know? So these are things that it's really more about political rhetoric. But Sizwe, let's hope they succeed, because it's in the best interest of our country to have stability. How? It's another thing. Let's give them, I don't want to really be negative. I would really like to really give them the benefit of doubt that they will find positive work for these deputy ministers and those who wants to turn our country into a construction site. We hope that will happen. I don't know where the money is going to come from in the first place, because our debt levels are sitting at over 80%. So I don't know where the money is going to come from to turn South Africa into a construction site.
Well, one of the interesting things that's happened with ActionSA recently is you came out of your recent Senate meeting and said you're prepared to stabilize metros in Joburg, and to do that you're prepared to work with the ANC under certain conditions. Talk us through how you came to that decision and why you think, despite all the failures of the ANC that you have spoken about in this interview and a lot before, you still think that it's important for the metros in this province in particular to be stabilized and for ActionSA to play a slightly different role than you were playing before. What's the thinking?
Cesar, remember immediately after the elections, Senate went on a 2-day strat session to go and do review and plan the way forward. And actually what came out of that was that we need to really go and consult our activists and
which is
and
something
our
you
people
do often. You actually go back to people and
so what came out really very strong, more especially in Gauteng, our caucuses in the 3 metros were concerned about the stability, more especially in Johannesburg and the Kuruleni, the stability, because EFF and ANC cannot see eye to eye. And that puts these metros at a very serious risk. You look at Johannesburg, the mayor that they've put in place, because the ANC and EFF had to find a compromise, but unfortunately subjected us, the residents, with the wrong person. So during my consultation with the teams, something just really clicked to me to say, you know what, Herman, as much as you are angry with the ANC, please don't allow your own personal feelings to destroy this country, more especially this metros, because this is a hard economic hub of our country. And I said, let me listen, and I then decided, let me put my own personal agenda on behind me and so forth. Fortunate enough, in the process, that's when ANC made advances to us. They'd already made advances to me personally.
Sure.
To be part of this government, but I refused. But then when our Gauteng municipality said, can't we be, you guys as Senate made a decision to be a constructive opposition. Give us an opportunity to be a real one with the powers.
Yeah.
ANC is desperate. They cannot stabilize these metros because of their relationship with the EFF. Please, can you engage them? We don't want to govern with them. Negotiate with them. Let them run the executive, and us as ActionSA, we run the legislature so that we can hold them accountable physically, instead of just a normal just talk when you're an opposition like that. And that's what drove my decision to put my own personal feelings away and really focus on the country. And so when ANC made contact with me, had a meeting with the Premier and some of his people, within 10 minutes of our discussion, I said, guys, let's not waste time. We are happy as ActionSA. I've listened to our teams. We are aware there is instability. We are happy to give you, in Johannesburg, we've got 44 councillors. I don't know if you are aware. We are the third biggest political party in Johannesburg. So ANC with us, they don't need...
you just one away from the halfway mark, the two of you.
The two of us, you need 146, so 136 members. So you only need two. And then in the first meeting, IFP also is part of this with 8 councils. So we've got more than what we need. But we said to them, please don't throw away these other smaller parties who've been with me. Go and engage them. We are happy, but if you guys are happy.
To keep them
run the executive, but you remove this mayor, because we cannot morally, honestly accept to have this person as a mayor, because you won't be able to turn the city around. And we don't want to be the one deciding for it. We need a mayor with the ability to be able to do the right things. Secondly, we said, please reverse this 200 rands city power surcharge. The nation is up in arms on this. Give us the speaker's position and some of the key positions in the Section 79 chairpersons. They accepted that. So we're still waiting for them. Hopefully, Funzi called me this morning that they want a meeting with us this afternoon. Hopefully, when I leave here, I'll get to know if they're still committed. But
we're standing in the way of a new Joburg. This channel is standing in the way of a new Joburg.
Yeah, but I'm concerned about what happened in the last few days in council council meetings. When we agreed about this 200 rand surcharge, up to a day before council meeting, there was no report to deal with this matter, and they were not telling us how they're going to treat it in council until I had to get Funzi to go and have a meeting with them, and we agreed with them and to say, guys, yes, we understand you can't change the budget. Anytime you want, you can change it during the budget adjustment budget. Yes, let the finance MNC speak officially that it'll be reviewed in February. Then residents can know that we don't want to operate outside the law. At least that's what happened. But then there was these 2 council meetings this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. They then send reports to council with some of the appointments of Section 79 chairpersons.
Fam, you asked for some SMWX merch and we have delivered. I know you're always looking for ways to help support and grow this channel. So why don't you buy yourself an SMWX hoodie? Super comfy, super warm, and you can represent SMWX. You can check the link down below for how to buy your SMWX hoodie and help build and grow this channel so we can bring you more interviews, more analysis, and more educational insights. Now let's get back to it.
And when we got this, we had to get them to withdraw them. Then I'm saying, but guys, how do you operate? Are you operating in bad faith or what? As much as we withdraw this, why did you have them in the first place?
Well, this is my worry is that when I heard you and coming out of the Senate meeting, it seemed like this would be, as you say, you've got 135 together, a fairly easy thing to achieve, and then a week has gone by and it's not quite coming together. So are you confident that this? Do you think the ANC is acting in good faith, or are you worried that they might be now? See, the problem with the ANC is you never know. 1 minute they can decide one thing, and then 2 minutes later, there's a decision somewhere that says no.
I've got experience with it. If you want to deal with an arrogant partner, I can tell you, ANC, they are amateurs with that compared to the DA. So I'm used to work with the very difficult, unreliable, dishonest people. So now with the ANC,
when do you think
sure.
we would know whether there is?
Well, if this meeting does happen, because I believe they said to Sifunzi requesting a meeting this evening.
Sure.
So if the meeting is successful, they don't come out with ridiculous changes to our in principle agreement, then the deal is going to be off, and we're happy to really move on. And one of the communication actually said to Funzi this morning, I said, please, if these guys want to see us and they're not tonight telling us when is Kwamanda going, then I don't think it will be necessary to have that meeting. I don't want to waste their time. I'd rather be home with my wife and my family than have a meeting where I cannot progress. I think in life, honestly, there are certain things that you don't have to really lie about them. If you don't want to do it, don't. If they believe they are unable to remove Kwamanda, they want to carry on, then leave us out of this arrangement, because it is a condition that you've accepted. And for us as ActionSA, to be honest with you, we cannot justify to the residents of the city of Johannesburg why we must subject them to a mayor like this. So if the ANC is committed to Kwamanda, they feel they can't remove him, then honestly, there's no point in us even having the meeting. But I don't know whether they're acting in bad faith or they have their own internal matters. I don't know. I don't think I can accuse them of whatever, but I can accuse them of the slowness in this matter, because the residents' service delivery, it's at a standstill right now.
So if all goes well, let's assume that scenario, and your meeting tonight goes well, how long do you think it would be before we saw new leadership in Joburg at least?
In fact, our original discussion with them 2 weeks ago was that this week was supposed to have been the week of the election of the new mayor and the speaker. And here we are on Thursday, they still want to see us. So if obviously tonight we meet and we're still on the same page, it has to happen next week. We can't really leave this matter hanging forever. If they feel they can't do it, I think people change their mind. ActionSA has changed his mind. We had a view that will never work with the ANC. We've changed our mind. If they've changed their mind that our proposal is not doable, just tell us, as guys, ActionSA, you know what, we've really looked at this matter, it's not going to work for us, thank you very much. Then we carry on with our lives. But then it leaves the cities very, very vulnerable and unstable, unfortunately.
Just finally, Mr. Mashaba, where to from here for ActionSA? It's a new political moment. You come into it from a very interesting angle from opposition. Where would you like to see ActionSA going, and what can we expect from the party as this new coalition era nationally takes shape?
Well, I think firstly, what's important, I think we were disappointed with the results we received, because we expected more. But one thing we also at the same time very grateful. We 29th of this month will be 4 years old. So we're a new party launched during the COVID. Now we've got 6 members of parliament, top 6 members of parliament. We've got 3 MPLs in Gauteng. We've got 1 in Mpumalanga, 1 in Northwest. So we're a party with 101 public representatives. We're a 4-year party. So we've got 101 public reps from national, province, and local government. So basically, we look at an opportunity for 2026 where if I look at it in reflection regarding the 2020, the recent election, I think we stretched our limited resources, and as a new party, want putting structures all over the country or in 2 years. I think we rushed ourselves. So right now we've taken a decision where we said to our provincial chairperson to say, guys, please do your homework. In 2026, you are not going to contest all municipalities.
Interesting.
Please, what you do, look at the finances of a municipality and see, in the event you win this municipality, can we turn it around? In the event this municipality cannot be turned around, because some of the municipalities, they don't generate their own revenue. They don't have the capacity. I said, such municipalities, please, let's not contest them. We'll look at how we can get some of our people. We end up with 2-3 councillors, but let's focus on key municipalities that in the event we in government with other political parties, that we can make an impact to turn around to help us for 2029. 2029. That's really the strategy that we've adopted. So beginning of next year, we agreed we're going to go away for a couple of days. All the provincial chairpersons are putting together a case of every municipality to identify financial viability. Do you have the right kind of leaders? Because if you test the municipality, you've got to really have a capable mayor. Do you have someone in the event we have to have a mayor from ActionSA? Do we have someone? And so forth. So we've given them a criteria. And so we've given them time. Late January, we'll go away for a couple of days where the provincial chairpersons are going to be presenting their report. So it is clear that we are not going to be contesting all municipalities, but we're going to contest municipalities where ActionSA will be part of government. And make a difference and prepare us for 2029. And that's a plan. And we can really use our funding properly. Right now, we're a political party. Remember, I started this from my own pocket to start this movement. Today, we're in a situation where, because now we're part of the province, we're part of national government, we're getting the funding. Of course. Whereas a month ago, we had to fund everything ourselves, went back for donors and so forth. So we don't have to start our business when we open the business on the first day. We don't have to rely on donors. we can put structures, very big structures. Firstly, 101 public officials paid by the city, by government. And over and above that, we get the funding like all the other parties to hire additional people. So ActionSA, within the next month or so, we're running interviews. We're going to have a very strong, powerful thing of not only relying on volunteers. Yes, we need volunteers because we can't hire everyone, but at least the key people will be able to actually pay them, more especially here in Gauteng.
Well, Mr. Mashaba, we look forward to what you have in store for South African politics going forward. And thank you so much for joining us on SMWX. It was great to have you.
Thank you. It was real pleasure. At long last,
Indeed.
We had an opportunity.
And we didn't bring any other guests for you to talk to today. It was just you.
Well, I don't know. I was invited on my own, and I came on my own. You didn't tell me I must bring other people, so I didn't need anyone to be with me.
Indeed. Thanks so much, Ndate, and we hope you'll join us again one of these days in the future. Maybe before 2026, we can check up on how that strategy is going.
No, please. Why 2022?
Wow.
No, we
Next
still have.
week is fine.
As soon as there's an opening, there's something controversial or something where you need clarity from us.
Great.
Don't rely rely on headline news.
Yeah.
I'm always available. Every media in this country, they know I'm always available to take any. I will never run away from the media to deal with whatever subject matter that you want to talk about.
We really appreciate that and your time.
Thank
you
you
for
so
joining
much.
us. Yeah.
Na 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 na